Hey, what's going on, everybody?
I'm coming around here and I'm looking at. I should have checked it. And
What?
I got those damn lights back there.
Well, yeah. You didn't notice that?
I didn't notice them until right now.
They're just like, yeah, there's like a little square like right in front of Spock.
I'm sorry, Spock. Mirror Spock.
Yeah, he's gonna kick your ass.
Yeah, he's gonna fucking ask for my agonizer.
Yeah.
Your agonizer, please, Mr. Ross. No, not the agonizer, Mr. Spock. Your agonizer. Oh shit! I didn't turn the fucking thing on either.
Man, you just got all kind of
I
problems.
know. Yeah.
He's so disorganized.
Yeah.
He's so disorganized.
Your agonizer, Mr. Ross. Thank you. Yeah.
I need one of those. And anytime you say some fucked up shit, I can just go bzzz.
Yeah. The fucking the Terran Empire they were the shit. They made you carry your own agonizer around.
Yeah.
Like that's like carrying around your own switch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's
Let me
like,
have your
"Hey,
switch.
hey,
Let me have your
Bishop."
switch. Okay. Yeah.
That's how they roll, man. That's how that works.
Yeah.
What's up, Tammy? What's up, everybody that's out there? It's Monday once again, and we're talking about a haunting. Now, right before we started the show, Tom was like, I hope that I remember this shit when you start talking about it, because I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't remember anything about it.
I remember.
We watched it.
I just kind of drew. They're all starting to get kind of the same.
Well, you know, the stories of them were like very similar. One thing I did notice, because this episode is the first episode of season 6, because we actually finished season 5 last week, is that I think I started to notice this in season 5, where, like I said, they were trying to go like more cinematic, like where they would do like flash forwards and stuff. Like they're still doing it now in season 6, but one thing I did notice is that there's less there's less like substance, because it seems like there's a lot more like, you know, when there would be a gap, like when they would go to commercial or whatever, and then they would come back and then they would spend like a few minutes like reiterating shit that they did like before the commercial. So a lot of it's like repeated, because I noticed, like, you know, when I take notes, and usually the older episodes, like I'll have like 3 or 4 pages of notes, and this one I just had 2, because not as much happened. And so, you know, it was like repeated, and so I didn't like write it down again.
Yeah, they're padding them out.
That's what I'm saying. They're just kind of like repeating a lot of the information, which, you know, I guess that's just what they did. Maybe it was cheaper. They're just like, we're using all the same footage again.
Well, the stories weren't that. Probably wasn't much to the story to begin with, so then they had to kind of pad it out and stretch it out and make it fit. It's an hour, I think. It's an hour-long program, so...
Yeah, they're like 48 minutes or something like that.
It's probably something that could be told in 15 minutes. So they're trying to stretch it out.
Yeah,
making it like a movie.
Yeah, that's definitely what they were doing. Which, like I said, that's, you know, fair enough.
That's
less for me to write down.
That's the series.
And whenever the ones end with an exorcism, in a way that's kind of good, because I don't ever have to write any of that stuff down, because all the exorcisms are like the same, and I'm just like, oh, standard exorcism.
The standard exorcism scene.
Yeah. With everybody like throwing holy water around and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, this one ended with that too, because this one is kind of like, did they say that this was demonic? I'm guessing they implied this was demonic.
Well, yeah, if there's an exorcism, they're going to say demonic, yeah.
And that demonologist, that Considine fella, was on here too.
Yeah,
he's on a lot of these.
What's funny is that it's starting to blend in with all the other ones. I can't remember how the story goes. You're going to have to start... as soon as you start talking about it, I'll remember it.
Like I said, this one's called Marked by Evil. Yeah. And I was like, did we do that one already? And then like I looked, I was like, no, we did one that was called Stalked by Evil. Yeah. Which I think was season 4, but this is Marked by Evil, so it's different. And in this one, technically, this one probably could be Stalked by Evil as well, because it is like a stalker, and that's how she gets the demon.
That's right. I remember it now. That was the dude that cast a love spell on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I remember now.
Except, well, he said it was a love spell, but instead it was like, no, really, I'm gonna like torment you with a demon spell, is what it was, because he was an asshole, because she didn't like him. So there was that. But yeah, do we have anything we need to cover before we get into this?
No, let's go ahead and get into it.
You gonna get into it so you'll remember it better?
Yeah. I'm starting to put it together now. I remember the guy who's pulled her hair out and shit so he could make his spell on her. And he kept.
Can you imagine?
Making moves on her. She's like, hey, I'm not into you that
And she was married, you know?
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she's like, yeah, get the fuck off.
He was kind of like a satanic witch or a satanic warlock.
or whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So this takes place in fall of 2008 in Manassas, Virginia, or as I like to call it, Manasses, Virginia. I mean, you could pronounce it like that if you wanted to, and I want to, so that's what I'm going to do. Manasses, Virginia. So the woman at the center of this is a woman named Stephanie Winter. Now, at the very beginning, she goes to a party at her friend's house, and she sees, I guess she's never been to the apartment before, but she, like, sees a bunch of occult books and that kind of, you know, he's got a bunch of goth paraphernalia, I guess, in there. And I kind of laughed because they made it seem, it was so very Satanic Panic, where he's just kind of like, oh, he had all these occult books like the Necronomicon. I was like, they talk about that like it's like a real...
Like a real book.
Thing. Like a real... Like, you know, obviously it's a real book, but it's not like a real old, like, grimoire or anything like that. It's like just fucking...
It's a fake book based on what H.P. Lovecraft was talking about.
Right. That's all it is. It's not really...
It's not ancient.
It's not old or nothing.
And Lovecraft made the Necronomicon up.
Yeah.
It's just part of his fucking mythos.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's funny, like, every time they talk about that, like, it's this ancient tome that, like, that people, like...
Oh, yes, the Necronomicon. Yes. The ones that the ancient Egyptians wrote. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I was like, you got this at Barnes & Noble, didn't you? Like, in the paperback.
Narla-hotep. Yeah, he wrote that one. Yeah. Yeah. And all the Shaggoths.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
old
very,
ones.
It's very silly.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, even when this came out, because I think season 6 was, what, 2013? It's by the time 2013 had rolled around, I'm pretty sure everybody was, like, pretty clued in to what the deal with the Necronomicon was.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's not going to impress anybody except, like, some real rubes.
Yeah.
That, like, actually think that's a real thing.
I can't remember. I think the last time I remember somebody being confused about the existence of the Necronomicon was high school.
Yeah, like, that's the last time I remember.
Stoners in high school, man, who are, like, into fucking Black Sabbath and shit. Yeah, man, the Necronomicon, dude. What? Yeah. That's some wild shit.
That's so
yeah, Ozzy Osbourne read it. Yeah.
And then summon demons and shit like that. Yeah, out of the Necronomicon. I bought it late. Yeah, I bought the paperback at like the fucking at Walden Books or some shit for like $6.
Yeah.
So, Murder Hornet said the Malleus Maleficarum. I don't know what I'm saying. But that's a real book, though.
Yeah, that was a
real that's a real witch hunting book. Like that's
from the 1600s.
That wasn't made up.
1500s, I think.
Something like that. I don't remember when it was first written.
It was a reference book at my high school library. I used to go in there and look at it. It had good woodcuts and shit.
Yeah. And I have a copy of it someplace.
Yeah. And you could still understand it. You know, the English was fucking archaic. But it wasn't old English. It was modern English, just real old.
Yeah.
You could understand most of it.
About fucking up witches.
Yeah, how to find witches and how to fuck them up and how you should drown them and shit like that. You know, pictures, the woodcuts of them pressing people.
Like they didn't have anything better to do back then. It's like we're just gonna go from town to town and pick up all these like fucking innocent women.
The names of certain demons and
Yeah.
Woodcuts of what they look like, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that was in there.
Yeah,
like I said, I have a copy of it someplace, but I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere.
They had a whole dictionary of them.
So imaginative. They were so imaginative.
Yeah, or I meant encyclopedia. They had a whole encyclopedia of demons, major demons in there.
Yeah. Demon encyclopedia.
Yeah, they pulled that shit out of their ass.
Of course. Yeah. Where else is it going to come from?
Yeah.
It's not real.
No. You could make a lot of money. You could make a lot of money back in those days just printing a wild-ass book. You know, the nobility believed in all that stuff. So if you could just cook up a good story, you could sell a lot of copies. And a book was expensive back then. It was like more expensive than buying a laptop.
Yeah.
So man, look, I got 4 books. You got 4 books? God damn, your library is fucking vast. I got 4. Yeah.
And these are like, you're not supposed to have these because it's all about demons. And stuff.
And you know, in that era, if somebody took the time to write it down, then it's fucking true. They took that shit seriously.
Because why would anybody just make that stuff up?
Yeah. Why would they do that? Yeah.
Little did they know.
Especially all that shit about fucking alchemy. They were fucking convinced that shit was true.
They really were. Like, there was so much time that they devoted to that. Yeah. And, like, even smart people and shit like that were, like, all into alchemy. Well,
it's funny. It had, like, a method to do all this shit. But it wasn't really science because they had already found the conclusion, the sorcerer's stone. It's like and making gold.
Yeah.
And they claimed that they could do it. Well, why weren't they doing it? They would say, just keep working at it. You know what I mean? The instructions would just say, keep working on it. If you're pure enough in heart, it'll eventually become gold. So in other words, it's not really what you did. It was just how pure your heart was.
Yeah, so then they always had an out. Like, so if you couldn't do it, like, it's like, well, you must be too sinful.
Yeah, you're
sorry.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if I actually figured out a way to turn lead into gold, I wouldn't tell nobody about that shit.
Right.
I would just make a bunch of gold and retire.
You're right. It wasn't chemistry. Chemistry kind of came from it, but it wasn't chemistry. It was religion. It was like the Scientology of the day. But what's funny is that, Isaac Newton, who was brilliant, believed it.
Yeah, I read a whole book about that. Like, all the shit that he was into. It's fascinating. Like, you can see how it wasn't as weird back then because they didn't really know. It's not like nowadays where everybody knows that that's not real. But it's like back then it sounded like, well, maybe. So you know what I mean?
The transmutation of metal.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it sounded cool and scientific and stuff, so.
Yeah, and it had symbols and shit.
Yeah, and so everybody knows that.
Yeah.
If you have, like, some symbols and
symbols and beakers and
sure,
some kind of a method slightly that, it must work. No, it's made up.
Yeah, well.
Close. Not even, no, it wasn't close. The concept was, it had a vague concept of chemistry, but not really.
No. It was just wishful thinking.
Yeah, they had no understanding of the molecular nature of matter. They didn't understand what molecules and atoms were.
Yeah, so we got off on the tangent because of the Necronomicon. Necronomicon, not real. Like I said, it's a real book. It's just not it's not old is what it is. So this was one of the occult books that he had in there, and I thought that was funny that they picked that one out, like the one that's fake. So, the guy, his name's Peter. I got confused because when I was watching the episode, I thought they said she goes to her friend Steven's apartment for a party, but then the guy that was stalking her was named Peter, and he was the one that was into the occult shit. So I was like, is he Steven's roommate, or did they just say the name wrong? Because I called him Steven for the whole thing, and then, like, later on they said, no, his name's Peter, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Okay, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention, maybe. But I'm just going to call him Peter. So, yeah. So Peter is apparently really, really into Stephanie, like in a stalkery kind of fashion. And she is really, really not into him. They're friends and stuff, but, he's like wanting more out of it. And she's like, yeah, no, I don't like you that way. And plus she's married too.
Yeah. She got him friend zoned. He didn't like it.
Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah.
So at this party, he tries to get a little bit rapey, get a little bit handsy. And she's just like, bro, like, get the fuck off, you know what I mean? And, she's like, I don't like you like that, I'm married, like, piss off, or whatever. And then he pulls her hair out, like, not all of it, obviously, but just, like, a little handful, which, man, you're getting punched if you did that to me. But, she's like, the fuck you do that for? And he's like, it's for a love spell. And she's like, what the fuck ever. Okay. So, Stephanie and her husband, who I think his name was Nicholas, or Nick, so they've only been married a year, and I guess they just moved house, so they just moved into this new house. Now, I guess she's a bartender, so she works at night, and he's in construction, so he's usually gone during the day. Now, she gets home from the party, and, like, she doesn't tell him about the situation with Peter, which I was like, I think I'd be telling you about that, but I don't know, maybe I wouldn't, because then you're like, I'm gonna go kill the motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because that's probably what you would do.
Oh, me? No.
Yeah.
Slap him around a little bit.
Yes, I would just slap him around a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she doesn't tell him about it. She's like, the party wasn't that fun. I probably should have just stayed home or whatever. So then the next morning, after Hubs goes to work, there's a knock at the door at 5:30 in the morning. Like, she's awake, I guess, because, she just got home from work. And it's fucking Peter knocking on your door at 5:30 in the morning with a big thing of roses. Creepy. So, yeah. I guess he was on his way to work, and he's like, yeah, I just thought I would, like, bring these. She's like, what the fuck? It's like, would you just fuck off? Like, she didn't say that on the show, but it was like, that's what she meant. She was just like, get the fuck out my face. And then, basically, he's like, you don't want to say no to me. And I was like, that's where you're wrong. I absolutely do want to say no to you. So get the fuck off my porch before I call the cops. So, yeah, dude's a fucking stalker. So a few weeks go by, and he actually does stay away. Like, she doesn't see him for a while. She's like, phew, okay, that's over. But probably not. So then the first weird thing that happens is, like, her and her husband are sleeping. It's the middle of the night. And they hear, like, this crash, like, a bunch of shit breaking, like, in the house, like, in the kitchen. And so first thing you think, which is what you would think, is that there's an intruder. So Nicholas goes out there. He's got, like, a baseball bat or whatever. And he looks all around the house, looks all around outside. And it's like, obviously, there's nobody there. What ended up happening was, I guess all the dishes had been, like, in one of those, the dish drainer thing that, like, sits on the counter. And I guess it, like, jumped off the counter. And all the dishes were broken, like, on the kitchen floor. So, of course, they're just like, well, you know, maybe it was just too close to the edge, and it just, like, you know, maybe a truck went by and, like, it fucking bumped it off, or something like that. Like, they didn't really, they thought it was weird, but not, like, super weird. So, yeah, so all the dishes are broken. Also, they did, like, a really cheesy jump scare right here, which is another thing that they started doing a lot, like, in season 5, but they really did it a lot in this one. And it's like every single time they do, like, this whoa, like, Stephanie is in the kitchen or whatever, and then, like, they'd show, like, the POV shot of, like, the camera, like, Jason Voorhees, like, coming up behind her and stuff. And I'm just like, this is her husband. It's her husband. And then it's like, oh my God. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm like, would you please stop doing that? I hate that. It's, like, so cheesy. But it's like, yeah, so pretty much every time it was her fucking husband, like, coming up and being like, oh, sorry I scared you, hon. You know, it was like that. So, yeah, so a few weeks later, Nick is in the house, and I guess he has a side gig, like, drawing tattoos, like, for his friends and stuff. Because I guess he's, like, a tattoo artist, like, on the side. And while he was sitting in the study or whatever, drawing, he said that there was a candlestick, and it basically, like, flew across the room and hit the wall and, like, left, like, took a little chunk out of the wall. Now, he said, I mean, from how he described it, he said he didn't, I guess he didn't see it leave because it was, like, kind of out of his, like, in his peripheral vision. But it was, like, a big candlestick, and he just, like, saw it fly and, like, hit the wall. So at this point, they're like, okay, well, obviously that's paranormal because there's not really any other explanation for that, like, flying across the fucking shit like that. So they're like, okay, well, it's got to be a ghost, right? So a couple nights after that, Stephanie wakes up in the middle of the night, and she has, like, a pain in her back, like a horrible stinging pain. And she's, like, screaming and flipping out about it. And so he, like, looks at her back, and he's like, oh, shit, you don't want to see this. He said that he could see blood forming on her back. Like, it was, like, you know, the telltale demonic claw marks on there, like 3 of them, yeah. And he said that he could see the blood just, like, coming out of the cuts or whatever.
What's weird is that poltergeist thing that I saw, it made those scratches in the wall. It was 3. When it pulled the damn chain that was locked, that chained the door shut on the inside. Maybe it's because 3 is the minimum amount to give you the impression of a claw.
Yeah.
So it's just like, to expend whatever kind of kinetic energy it is, you need at least 3. 4 might be a waste of time. 3 is good enough. You know it's a claw mark.
Yeah, it's like that's just enough to suggest
if it's 2, you might not know what that was. Weird. But I saw it. It's weird.
Julianne Pope said it was broad daylight when she answered the door at 5:30 a.m. Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, that's clearly like 7 or 8 in the morning. Because look, I get up for work at 5 in the morning and it's dark. Even in the summertime.
I wake up with her half the time.
Well, you do. This morning you did.
What time is it? It's 5 o'clock.
It says 5 o'clock, I'm getting up. I'm not happy about it, but I'm getting up.
I laid and rolled around for about a half hour. I can't go back.
Well, I actually woke up at 3:30.
Yeah.
Because I have, like, terrible cotton mouth. Like, my mouth gets really dry. And so 3:30 in the morning, like, my throat had dried up so much that I started coughing, and that woke me up. And then I had to pee, and then I was like, so I got up, and then I got back in bed, and I said, oh, maybe I can sleep for another hour and a half. Yeah, no.
I got to look into that dry mouth thing. Maybe you need some HCG.
Maybe,
Get your glands running.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, I'm always, like, thirsty, and my mouth is always dry.
Well, shit. Bee's nest. Let me get some of that HCG from you. I'm gonna fucking bag her up with some of that.
And then Murder Hornet also said, I'd slap a bitch waking me up at 5:30. Yeah, so would I. I mean, like I said, I wake up for work at 5, but on the weekends, if somebody wakes me up at 5:30, oh yeah, I'm absolutely going to slap you. I don't like that. I don't like being woke up. I got to wake up early all week. I don't really like being woke up. You know what I mean? I get really, really cranky. Really cranky. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so where was I? All right, so fly on the candlestick, yeah. So and then she has, like, the claw marks on her back and everything. So at this point, I guess this had been going on for a while, because they said at this point, it's now February 2009. So I guess they said, like, a year had gone by, since she... Well, okay, here's the weird thing. They said it's February 2009, a year had gone by since, I presume, she had told that Peter guy to go fuck himself. But I thought they said at the beginning that it was fall of 2008, which I don't know if you're calculating, but that's not a year. That's only a few months.
All right.
So I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they meant a year since something else. I don't really know. I usually write shit down, but it's like I just wrote down, they said, oh, a year had gone by. I'm like, since when? I don't know. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention, too, that when she had, like, the claw marks on her back or whatever, she said that, you know, she's like, I had a shirt on, I had the blanket on. It's like there was no tears in the shirt. There was no, you know, the blanket wasn't fucked up or anything like that. So she didn't really know how it had happened. Now, a few days after this part actually kind of cracked me up a little bit. Because a few days after that, a friend visits. I don't even think they said what the friend's name was, and they'd never mentioned her again. And she brings a lady from her church who's supposed to be like a sensitive or a psychic or something. And this part is great because the friend comes in, it's like, hey, how are you? Like, I haven't seen you in a long time and everything. And then like this old battle axe that she brings with her, like this psychic lady, she's like totally, like doesn't even say, hey, how are you? Or anything like that. She just walks in the house like all smug, like sensing things, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, hi, have you been helped? She didn't even like tell her to come in or anything. She just waltzed right in and started like sensing shit around the house. And I'm like, rude. Okay. So yeah. Now she comes up with this story that back in the day, I thought from the way that the clothing was of, you know, the actors and the reenactment and stuff, I thought they were trying to say it was maybe like Civil War era, but I'm not entirely sure. But the psychic came up with this story. It's like, oh, there was a family that used to live in this house or on this land or whatever the hell. And that the husband was like real abusive and shit. And then he ended up killing his wife and kids. And now he's like haunting the place still. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Stephanie at that point notices too that the scratches on her back have not healed, even though it's been several days. Like they still look the same. Now, Stephanie also said that around this time she saw a ghost herself, like an apparition that looked like a little boy. She said she only saw him for a few seconds, but she saw him very, very clearly, and that his face was like really sad. So she's maybe presuming that this is one of the kids of the family that the psychic said was murdered in there. But like I said, they don't, you know, nobody checked that, so I don't really know if anything like that really happened. So then a little while later, Stephanie is in the kitchen like cooking or baking or whatever, and scratches like spontaneously appear on her arm, like really deep ones, and again it's 3 of them, and she like wigs out about that. And at this point her and Nicholas are like, we really didn't want to tell anybody about this because we thought everybody would think we were nuts, and so, you know, we just didn't want to say anything about it. And then one night, not too much later, a friend of theirs had come over to the house so that Nicholas could give her a tattoo, because like I said, he was kind of like a tattoo artist on the side. And so it was the girl there, and there was this other chick there who I'm assuming was her friend or whatever. And while Stephanie was there kind of like watching what was going on, she had like scratches in her legs. She said like spontaneously like opened up, you know what I mean? And everybody saw it. And because everybody saw it, they were like, yeah, we're out. Like everybody just like flipped out and ran the fuck out of there because they were freaked out by it. So yeah, so they just like got the fuck out. And at this point, Nicholas is getting like really mad, and he's just like challenging the entity or whatever it is, like asking why he was doing this, why are you doing this to my wife, and blah blah. And then they jump ahead to November of 2009. So this is kind of like a long-term, I think it's like a 2-year span of like shit that's going on. And the husband says, Nicholas, he says she would get scratched like pretty much all the time. He's like, it got to a point where it had happened like half a dozen times or more, like at least once a week, sometimes twice. It was just happening all the time. You know what I mean? So finally, they're like, we really were reluctant to tell anybody about this, but finally we decided we have to do something about it. So they called like a paranormal investigator. And this guy's name is Rick. I think it was Atcherstein, I think is what they said his last name was. Like, I wrote it down, but I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it or not. And he is like a specialist in violent hauntings, I guess. And he says, predictably, that because everything is 3 scratches, then obviously that's demonic.
Like
so,
666, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Well, they always say, isn't what they always say? It's like, oh, it's a mockery of the Trinity. That's what they always say. Like they don't know. But I'm just saying that's usually, that's the going theory anyway, the hypothesis. So he says, well, if you have like some kind of demon, you know, fucking with you, then obviously either you invited it, and I'm like, way to blame the victim, or it was summoned somehow. And so he's like, you know, he's like, not saying it was you, I'm just saying, do you know anybody that was into the occult or anything like that? And she's like, oh, matter of fact, there was this chode that was like fucking stalking me, and he said he was going to do a love spell and pulled my hair out and yada yada. So Rick says, oh, well, that dude probably put a curse on you, and that's likely what's happening at the moment. So he's like, I can come back next week and do an investigation. But, you know, in the meantime, Stephanie is still getting, like, scratched and, you know, senses the entity and all that other kind of stuff and, like, starts yelling at it to get the fuck out. And, you know, just kind of screams at it, tells Nick, it's like, we have to fight it and you gotta help me fight it, blah, blah, blah. Now, at this point, Nicholas is like, I really wanted to move, like, because they haven't lived in this house that long. But Rick tells them, it's like, you know, don't bother because this thing is, like, attached to your wife, and it's like, it would probably just follow you, so there's really not any point. So Rick comes in there, and he sets up all the equipment around the house like they do. And he actually didn't get Jack, which I thought was kind of good that he actually admitted that it's like, we didn't get anything, like on video or audio or nothing. It's like absolutely nothing happened, like when they set it up. So I was like, well, okay. I'm glad that he didn't just like make some shit up or try to be like orbs or some shit like that. He said they didn't get anything. And what Stephanie and Nicholas said, it's like, yeah, whenever Rick, the paranormal investigator, was there, like whenever he was there, like nothing would happen. But it's like as soon as he left, like Stephanie would start getting attacked and like shot and like, you know, cut up and everything like that. And at this point, Stephanie was like so depressed that she wouldn't even like go anywhere. She's like, because I was always covered with bandages, and she's like, and I felt like people were looking at me, and she's like, and it was just like fucking relentless all the time, and so she just never wanted to go anyplace, you know what I mean? Yeah. So she just like never wanted to leave the house. So then there was an incident where Stephanie was in the room, like in the bedroom, and she got like forcibly like pushed down on the bed, like, and the thing was like, they did a thing where she was like laying there with her arms out like that, and then they almost did like a little bit of an impression of like a person,
like the entity,
like, yeah, kind of like that. It was kind of like that,
because there's a movie called The Entity that was like that.
Yeah, we talked about that like on our very first episode, like many years ago.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a show about that case also, if I'm not mistaken. But that's an interesting case too. I'm not really sure I believe that lady, but it's pretty weird anyway. But yeah, so she's like pressed down in the bed. She can't move or breathe or anything like that. Nicholas is like flipping out. It's like she looked like she was dying because like she couldn't breathe or anything. And so he starts like yelling at the ghost, you know, why don't you come fuck with me instead of her, and yada yada, you know, all the stuff that like dudes say. So then they tell Rick about this situation, and they're like, now we're really worried about it because it's like it could have killed her, and you know, so they're like, well, we need to do something about it. So Rick calls a demonologist for advice. So the demonologist says, well, what you need to do is you need to get some beeswax candles. Got to be beeswax candles. Can't be like those fucking cheap ass like other ones. Got to get some pontifical incense. He said pontifical incense, I'm pretty sure. So that's like some special. You can't just go to the head shop and get incense. You got to get the good shit. And also holy water. So they're going to do like a sealing ritual. So, Rick advises that they do this ritual every night. So, they do it. So, basically, Stephanie and Nicholas are like, this must have got really tedious after a while. It's just like you had to go, like, in every room, every single night, with your candles and your... I mean, how much did they spend on beeswax candles? And I don't know how much pontifical incense cost, but it can't be that cheap, surely. So they're just kind of like going from room to room, saying the prayers and yada yada, like everything like that. So they did that every night, apparently, for months and months. And evidently, at first, it worked. Like, nothing happened for, like, a really long time. So, like, nothing happened for such a long time that Stephanie was starting to get really relieved. It's like, oh, man, like, everything's going back to normal. Like, we can get back to our normal life, you know, and everything's going to be good now. Now, at this point, like I said, it's been a while. So, they did this every night for a really long time, and now it's March of 2011. So, like I said, it's more than a year has gone by, like, since all of this nonsense started. And they were doing the nightly ritual for a year. And during that year... apparently nothing happened, so everything was copacetic. But then, one night, just suddenly, in the spring of 2011, Stephanie is in the kitchen and sees a dude outside the kitchen window. The implication being that it was like the ghosty that they saw from before, which was supposedly like the murder dad. You know what I mean? That killed his whole family.
Yeah.
It was the same actor anyway. I don't really know if she saw that or recognized him or anything. Because I don't think she ever saw the murder dad. She said she saw a ghost of a little boy, but I think she said that was the only entity that she saw. But yeah, so the dude's outside the window. So they thought it was a person, so like Nicholas goes out to check, but obviously there's nobody out there. And then when he comes back in, and they did another fake out jump scare right here, and I was like, God damn it, will you please stop doing that? Like I said, they did it like 3 or 4 times, and it's like every time I'm like, it's her husband, okay? We know it's her husband. Just stop it. So he comes back in, and then Stephanie apparently gets yanked down to the floor like by her hair. Like something grabs her by the hair and like pulls her down like onto her back or whatever. So at this point, Nicholas calls Rick back and says, hey, you know, the attacks have started back again, so what the fuck do we do? So Rick comes back, and he's like, okay, what we need to do is we need to do this 48-hour immersion thing where we're going to try and get all this evidence because I need to go to the Catholic Church and ask them permission, like, to do a big deal exorcism. You know what I mean? But it's like, if we don't have enough evidence, then they're going to say no, so I'm going to, like, come in here and do this. Now, Rick says to Stephanie... he's like, what I want you to do is, like, I know you guys have been doing, like, the sealing ritual, like, every night for a year or whatever. But he's like, I want you guys to stop doing that because he's essentially, and she even said this, she's like, you're using me as bait. And he's like, yeah, pretty much. We're just going to stop doing the prayer and see if, like, some fucked up shit happens because we want to get the fucked up shit on tape so we can take it to the church and say, hey, we need to do an exorcism on this lady. You know what I mean? So that's what they were trying to do. So the first night, so they're there for 2 nights. And the first night they're there, and again, he said, like, just fuck all happened. Nothing happened. Like, the first night, absolutely nothing. But the second night, Stephanie is in the kitchen, and she gets scratched again on her arm, like, really deep, like, right on her forearm. And nobody saw it. Well, they saw it on tape, like, because they were watching, you know, they had cameras all around, like, monitoring. So they saw it happen, but it's... you know, Rick was like, I hate to say this to her, and it's like, and she got kind of offended, but he's like, you know, I didn't see it happen, like, on the tape, so it's like, you could have faked that, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, I'm not saying you did, he's just saying that you could have,
saw her reaction.
and it wouldn't be good enough for, like, for the church, is what they were trying to do. They were trying to get actual evidence, like, on tape.
Yeah. He sees her on the video have a reaction, but he didn't see the scrapes. And then she goes off camera, and then I think she sees, then she approaches him, and then she's got the scratches. And he said she could have made the scratches herself on her way once she got out
because he's like, she was out of my sight.
He didn't see, right.
So he's like, you know, and like I said, she was kind of offended, but she understood, like, what he was talking about. He's like, I'm not saying you did do that. He's just saying you could have done that. Right. And it's like, if I show that to the church, that's what they're going to say. And it's like, you know, so it's not good enough. So he said, interestingly, though, he said the cuts were really deep. He said there was actually a pool of blood on the floor. And he's like, there was also some blood spatter, like, on the wall, like, where she had been standing, as though it had been, like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, you know, like I said, she could have done it, sure. But it's like, I don't know. She didn't seem like... I don't know. I guess she seemed fairly credible, but, you know, you can't really tell. It's hard to tell. Most of the people on here seem pretty credible, because I guess if they have, like, a real person on there telling their story and they sound like a loon, then they don't put them on the show.
Right.
You know what I mean? The only dude on here that sounded like a loon was the dude that, like, had the Egyptian god coming out.
Crocodile. And they didn't care that he sounded like a
loon. He was just trolling.
Yeah, he was trolling.
I think.
Yeah.
So it's like, but fair play to him. He did keep a straight face the whole time, which I would not have been able to. So, but yeah. So Rick says, okay, well, the video evidence, we did get it on video, but we didn't see it actually happen. So it's like it was significant, but not conclusive. And so they have to, like, keep at it. And then there's a thing where, like, the camera goes fuzzy. I don't know if that really happened or if they just did that for dramatic effect. And then Rick apparently sees scratches form on her, like, while she's in the bedroom. And he saw it with his own eyes. And I guess they got it on camera, too, because they were all excited about it. I think it was on her leg. Wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was, like, on her leg that time. But he's like, I actually saw it happen that time. Like, I saw it, like, open up in her leg. And we did get it on camera. So they decided they were going to take the shit to the church. But the thing about it, though, is that they didn't even end up... That whole, like, plot sideline, like, that didn't even really end up mattering because they didn't even... I don't even know that they took the evidence to the church at all, because they just ended up... They said, oh, well, no time to, like, go to the church and have them fuck around and not tell us we can't do an exorcism. We're going to have to, like, we got to do this shit right now. So, yeah, I don't know. So they bring in good old David Considine on the shit, who has been on the show many times before. I feel like was he like associated with the Warrens?
I think he was.
I think that because I think that
was that priest, right?
He's a demonologist. Well, he's like not. Here's the thing, and I'm not really sure how all of this works. He's not like an official demonologist. Yeah. Because doesn't the Catholic Church have some official demonologists? Even though I think they say they don't, but I think they do. But I think he's kind of like a freelance demonologist, if that makes any sense. Like, I guess they'll call him in on some shit. So he's kind of sanctioned, but he's not, like, official. Which I don't know if you have to have, like, a license, like a demonology license.
The problem when they call in psychics or demonologists is that they're always going to see this through the framework of what they've been studying. No matter what. You're going to call in a demonologist, and he's going to go see it, and you go, oh, by the way, oh, you know what? This isn't a demon. This is just telekinesis. This is RSPK. He's never going to say that, because they're going to say, okay, well, then if that's not your specialty, then go off the case.
Get out of here.
Get a parapsychologist.
He's like, I don't have a job unless I come in here and say everything's demons.
Yeah, it's demons. Yeah, it's, just like...
Oh, you got a bad one.
The Warrens were demonologists, and so everything was a fucking demon.
Of course.
Yeah. Oh, this isn't RSPK from a kid or anything. This is a demon. Because they have to. If not, they're out of the job.
Yeah, and like I said, because if they said, oh, it's not a demon, then everybody's like, what the fuck are you even here for? Then get out my house.
Yeah, they're just going to say something like, well, they say RSPK is recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, uncontrolled on the subconscious of a kid. But no, poltergeist is a demon.
Well, I think what they would do, too, because I know that they did this on a few other cases, was that they would come in and they'd be like, oh, well, you got, like, they would even sometimes say, oh, maybe it's poltergeist, or you have spirits in here, but a demon is controlling it.
Yeah,
Like, you got a demon, too.
The demon's bringing this shit in.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Demon has a whole army of paranormal fucking
everything's under the control of the demon.
Yeah.
So that's how they would kind of, like...
It'd be awesome if that actually worked, though. If it was like that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it would be awesome if, like, demons really existed, but they don't, so it's okay.
I was listening to Merciful Fate, and the lyrics are like that. Looking for their very first album. Dude says that he was raised from the dead by spirits to become a mercenary for Satan. Man, that's some heavy shit, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like fucking.
I was a mercenary for Satan.
A mercenary for Satan. Yeah.
Sure.
And then he's
singing, pretty good.
And then he's singing about he's going to kill this priest because he killed his girlfriend who was a witch, and now he's fucking getting revenge on them all, and her ghost is watching, and he's called her back from the dead. That's like straight out of Hammer Horror. That's some good shit, man. That's some good shit.
That's probably where they got the idea.
Yeah, King Diamond. King Diamond was awesome. He could sing as like a man or a woman or a child. He could do whole operas and play every part with his voice. He's a good vocalist. We would try to sing to fucking Merciful Fate albums, and you'd just play yourself. You just couldn't sing like that. He was fucking great, and he's still good, man. I saw him live show on YouTube and everything. It's all high, a fucking expensive show, with a bunch of fucking effects and everything. Great stage. Everything looks like he's singing from a satanic fucking pulpit. You know what I mean? And like he's in a fucking church and shit. With a crown on, with these crowns and fucking black and white fucking makeup and everything. It's just a good show. It's not hard by today's standards, about as hard as Iron Maiden, but his vocals are fucking, they're the shit. I think he was Norwegian, I think. Can't remember.
Yeah,
good
something
band.
like that.
Yeah, good band. Yeah, but it just kind of reminds me when they talk about this shit, it brings me back to me being a kid listening to heavy metal. That kind of stuff. Yeah. That's the fucking thinking of a heavy metal album. You got a demon, and it's got poltergeists, and it's got a whole army of things from Satan. It's like out of Venom album. It's like off of Venom. I used to like Venom too. Great band. And I used to kind of take it seriously because I had seen a poltergeist already by this time. But then I realized as I got a little bit older, I was like, oh, basically what I'm doing is I'm watching a movie.
Yeah, they're just rolling to horror movies.
Yeah, it's just been, this is basically The Evil Dead, a record. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they maybe had some hidden knowledge or something, Maybe they knew about the paranormal. Now they're just pulling that shit straight out of their asses and straight out of Hammer horror movies.
Yeah, like I said, they just are real into horror movies, and they're like, let's write a song about that.
Yeah. Witches and Satan and fucking werewolves and what was happening in heaven, a war in heaven. The demons are trying to take over heaven and kick all the angels out so they can have it. That's some way wild nicer shit, up man. There. That's some wild shit.
They got gold toilets and everything.
Gold toilets. Trying to kick God out of heaven so they could take over.
Murder Hornet says, those ghost hunter shows, they scratch themselves. Yeah, I bet they do.
Yeah.
Like, they just turn around and it's like, oh, shit, look at that. Oh, my God. Just like that shit they do. It's like, did you hear that? No, we didn't hear anything. Stop.
Yeah.
Samantha said, just saw the Warrens, SIL, which I guess is sister-in-law, saying they're having a paranormal con up in Connecticut on October 27th and 28th. Annabelle will be there. Okay. Ooh, they're bringing Annabelle the doll. Yeah. Are they going to keep her in the glass case? Because you know what happens if you let her out of the glass case. Everyone's going to get possessed. And that's not going to be a good time for anybody. It's lawsuits all around.
If any of y'all are new to the show, we love the Haunting series. Not all the cases are real credible. They're fun, though. And we'll bag on paranormal tropes. But I don't bag on the paranormal. I've seen paranormal stuff. It's real. It's just that it doesn't come across in these... It's very rare, and it doesn't come across in these episodes. They're very highly fictionalized, and a lot of this is fake. The real shit is like Poltergeist. The best case, the best documented, is This House is Haunted, written by Guy Lyon Playfair, about the Enfield poltergeist up in England. All right, that one was exactly like what happened to me and my aunt and my uncle. It just didn't last as long. It only lasted like 2 weeks. And it was recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis. And it happens every now and then, and it's happened recently in this house. But it only lasts like a couple episodes. A couple things might happen in a day. And then it'll go like 6 months or maybe in a year, nothing will happen. And then it'll happen again. And it's always when I'm under a lot of stress or I think about it too much. But it's just little parlor tricks that you can't gain anything off of them. Something will move or be thrown, and you go like, man, or somebody might teleport. And like, how'd that get here? And like one time it says, why doesn't it do anything useful? Why doesn't it bring me a whole bunch of money? And it did a few seconds later. The stack of coins from my dresser.
You're like, gee, thanks.
From my dresser. And
which was already yours.
I was like, that's not what I was thinking about. I was thinking about a big pallet of 100s from the bank. Send me that. But
unmarked bills, please.
Yeah, but it's limited in what it does, what it could do.
I guess so. Or it's just being a jackal.
Or it's being a dick, yeah. Or it doesn't do things that you wouldn't do. You think, well, stealing's immoral, so I'm not going to steal. I'm just going to take my own money and give it to me. There might be something like that.
I don't think stealing from a bank is immoral, so they can.
Yeah. So, they just print that shit.
So that's what I mean. So a poltergeist can just give me money.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But they've got more.
But I'm scared of it if it gets ramped up. We've talked about it earlier I'm afraid that it might kill somebody.
Like me.
No, it might try to kill me. even though it's generated from me. You know, there's no telling what it could do.
Yeah, you got all kind of crazy shit going on in there.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah. It might be that thing like out of the damn Venom. You know, I made you and all that kind of shit. You know, you failed me and it kills me. Yeah, I don't know. Something might be something like that. Different facets of it.
Tom relates to Venom really hard.
like that.
Like I said, that and the scene in The Shining where Jack Nicholson's going down the hall going, like down the fucking gold room. Tom's like, yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, my version of Venom in there is kind of like Venom, but it's also kind of like the Green Goblin. The William Dafoe Green Goblin. That's what its voice is like. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's not that bad.
Yeah.
I think everybody has that.
Yeah. The inner facets talking to each other and stuff.
They made a whole animated movie about that, you know? Like about all the little people, like, what the fuck was the name of that thing? Inside Out or something like that. Where it's just like a bunch of little people like living in their head, like fighting all the time.
Yeah, well, some of those things in your deep consciousness and your unconscious, kind of like something out of them. Who is that guy who wrote the fucking? It's like a Jungian fucking forces. Yeah. Some of that stuff. Some of those have the ability to have psychokinesis. Your conscious mind doesn't seem to have that ability, but some of your unconscious mind. Some of your unconscious personalities can do that. They can act under the suggestion of your conscious mind, but not directly. And some of those things in there are bad, or kind of bad.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah,
you never know what's gonna happen. So, all right, where did we go astray? Oh, okay. So yeah, we were talking about David Considine.
Yeah.
So who, like I said, has been on several, and I'm pretty sure he's associated with the Warrens. And I think he's been on some of it. Because, like I said, he's like a freelance demonologist. I don't know what they call it. But he's not, like, sanctioned, but they will call him in on stuff. So here's what they decide to do. And I thought this was kind of interesting, and I don't really... I mean, I get what the theory behind this was, but I don't think I've ever seen them, like, talk about this. So they said they're going to do a mass in Stephanie's name, but they're not going to tell her that they're doing that. Now, they said that she's not possessed. She's just under demonic oppression, which I guess is just like the step before. That's when the demon is just like sitting on your head.
Yeah.
Rather than just like before he like goes up in your booty or however it is that demons get into your body.
But yeah, they through your booty.
I mean,
they come out of your booty too. So.
I mean, I figured they would probably go in your booty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right now it hasn't gone in her booty. It's just like sitting on her head. So she's demonically oppressed. So they're like, okay. So what they did was they had a priest who was like not associated with anything. The priest was in Chicago. And remember I said this is Manassas, Virginia. Yeah. Manassas, I know, but I like to call it Manassas. So it's however many miles that is. It's a lot. And so they have this priest in Chicago doing the mass for her. But they didn't tell her that they were doing it. And so, like, they had to act all... I guess they wanted to see if she would react to it. Like, because they knew it was going on, but she didn't. That's the story that they told anyway. So Rick goes over to Stephanie's house, and he's acting, like, all fucking casual and shit like that. Hey, what's up? Just thought I'd stop by and see you. But really, he was, like, just looking at her to see if she was going to react because he knew that the mass was going on, like, in a city far away. Now, in Chicago, where the priest is doing the shit, and like I said, I'm sure this is probably, like, artistic license that they were taking, because I don't know if they knew anything. I don't even know if they said the priest's name. But he had the whole thing, like, wind was blowing his hair, and the candles were blowing out, and all that kind of crap. In Manasses...
Stephanie's fucking fascinated with man asses. You gotta watch it, man. She likes jock straps, and she fucking has fantasies of pegging a motherfucker. I gotta fend her off all the time. Like, ain't gonna happen, Jay. Put your ankles behind your ears. So that ain't gonna happen, Jay. She's sitting over there with the goddamn fire hydrant in her hand.
You're no fun. You're no fun.
Yeah.
Man,
it's all fun and games.
It is, yeah. I wouldn't do it against your will.
See, look at that. That's how I'm trying to go. I'm just going to talk you into it.
Someday.
No.
Someday you'll be really, really drunk.
That was fucking gin, man. Fucking funny.
I'm just fucking with you. I wouldn't do that. No,
yeah, you would.
Not unless you said I could.
Fucking naughty ass bitches.
I never the word.
Yeah.
So yeah. So she's in Virginia, and she said that she felt as though someone set a bomb off in her head. Because she was like, I don't feel too good. Like, what the fuck's going on? And shit like that. And then Rick's like, because he knew that there was, like, a mass going on, like, way far away, like, in Chicago. And he's just like, oh, see, she knows what's going on. And then, what the fuck is that word? I don't even know what that word is. Like, I'm writing the notes down really fast, and I'm just like, it's not messy. It's just I can't figure out what that word was supposed to be. But yeah, she started feeling really dizzy. She got, like, a horrible migraine. And at this point, they said, okay, well, now she's in danger of being, like, fully possessed, like I said. Like, you know, the demon might be going up in her booty instead of just sitting on her head, like I said. So at this point, Rick calls up David Considine, who I guess has just been sitting on the sidelines this whole time. And they're just like, okay, well, we don't have time for the Catholic Church to get off their fat asses and, like, say that we can do exorcism, because they have to give permission to it. It's like, that's so silly to me. I was like, just do it. It's not like they're gonna find out. You know what I mean? You're just going in someone's house, like, saying a bunch of shit and throwing, like, holy water around. It's not like anyone's gonna narc on you. I don't know. But so they just go in there. They're like, well, we could do a minor rite of exorcism. You can't do, like, the full-on deal, like, without the church's permission. But I guess you can just do, like, the little lame-ass trial version, like, of the exorcism. So they decide they're going to do that because that's, like, all they can do, and they don't have time to sit around waiting for the Catholic Church to give them permission. So Rick decides he's going to do it, and so he has to do, like, a spiritual cleansing of his own self. He has to go to confession and all that jazz. And then he's going to go, kick some demon ass, apparently. So at this point, like I said, this is what I'm talking about the later seasons of the show, like, padding shit out. Because he's like, he comes in with the book or whatever, and he's like, I'm going to read the whole ritual, and then Stephanie and Nick have to repeat everything. And they did. They read the whole thing, and then, like, they repeated it. And I'm like, really? Are we really going to read this whole thing right now? Like, this is taking, like, 10 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it wasn't 10 minutes, but it seemed like it took a while. Because I was like, yeah, they were really, like, padding out the runtime.
Yeah, they're trying to make a movie.
They were really padding out the runtime. Because I was like, yeah, we get the gist, okay?
Yeah, one thing about The Haunting, in this particular season, this was season 6, right? 6, 7.
Yeah, season 6.
They are fun to watch. They are like little
movies.
we
always have a good time watching them.
They're like something out of the Conjuring universe.
It's like our Sunday night ritual. You know what I mean? Like, after we do the movie live stream, like, we come in and get cleaned up and get in bed with snacks and, like, watch the fucking...
Yeah, they're like little horror movies.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of substance to them to help you kind of like make some kind of long distance analysis of the case. You just got to take it at its word. There's not enough detail there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we talk about it, and we kind of, like, debate the finer points of, like, how realistic or how, we think this is. But I just kind of approach them as though they're horror movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, there'll be witnesses, but there's always a witness involved with the case. There's never anybody from the outside that's kind of, like, watching the investigation and, going like, did that really happen? There isn't like a I don't want to say a skeptic, but like an impartial witness.
Right.
There isn't, because sometimes a skeptic is a professional skeptic. They'll fucking deny they saw something when they did. You know what I mean? That there's that possibility. But you need somebody who's impartial to the case. And they never have that. No, these never. It's always somebody who is partial to the case.
Yeah, I mean, because I guess the point of the show is just to entertain people and creep them out.
Yeah.
And so they're just giving these people a platform for, like, describing their experiences or, experiences that they think they experienced or that they just made up.
And it would kind of ruin the show if somebody showed up and goes, oh, yeah, them? Nah, they're full of shit. They're always fucking making up shit. Then it would...
That's what I mean.
Kind of like...
See, if you had, like, if you had some asshole like me coming in there and being like, I don't think that happened the way that
I was there when they said that. As funny as that shit's always happening when I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Fucking, whenever I was there, it was quiet. Fucking, so you don't know.
Yeah. See, that's what like kills me about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's always like very convenient.
Yeah.
You know.
But the same could be said kind of for what happened to me in in our case. No one else was around, so I understand.
Although you said that
some people would
Lois and Red's neighbors,
their neighbors saw it. Yeah, the
like
neighbors saw it, but they had to have stayed there a while,
right?
And they did see it. They were like, "Wow!" You know, it impressed them. It scared one dude. His name was Jimmy. He saw this shit, and he goes, "Okay, man." They said, "I gotta go," and they never saw him again.
Just right.
He noped the fuck out. Yeah, he was scared. I can't remember exactly what he saw. Was it the knife that got thrown? They remembered. They were older than me when it happened. Or was it... I know that the little Matchbox cars got rearranged when they were right next to him.
Right.
And he said, "Look, that those are different now." And he looked down and goes, "You guys are full of shit."
Yeah.
But they were different. And then something else happened right after that, another 10 minutes later, and he saw that, and he's like, "I gotta go. I gotta get out of here."
Yeah, he's like, "Your shit's haunted."
Yeah. I don't know if he thought it was haunted. He just scared him. Things were moving.
Well, yeah, that would kind of weird you out.
Yeah.
So they basically read the whole entire ritual. It seemed like it took forever. And, with him saying the line and them repeating it and blah, blah, blah. And then you have all your standard exorcism tropes like you see in the show. It's like everybody's all windy. Everybody's, like, yelling louder and louder. Lights are flashing, like shit like that. Candles are flickering and whatnot. And then everything lights up outside. And I was like, oh, there it is. Smell of sanctity.
Yeah.
They never say that. But you know what I mean? It was just like, it looked like it got daylight outside, even though it had been nighttime.
Yeah.
And then after that, everything was apparently okay again. Like, that was pretty much the end. Like, everything's okay now. They still said they didn't really know what caused it, although the large implication was that it was that fucking douchebag that, like, cursed her, apparently, and, like, did the love spell. And she's like, and we still don't know anything about, like, the murder that supposedly happened here, like the guy that murdered his whole family. Because she said she only saw that ghost boy once, and so, like, she didn't really figure what the hell was going on with that. So we don't know if it's like a demon and ghosts, or if it's just like one demon who's pretending to be a little boy ghost. We don't know what's going on. We don't know.
I know one thing, though. I've been slacking. I never did try to find Donnie Decker, the Rain Man.
That's right.
He's out of jail by now. If any of y'all could find Donnie Decker, the Rain Man, drop us a fucking line on Facebook or Instagram. I want him on as a guest. I want to talk to Donnie, who's another poltergeist kid. He can make it rain in his prison cell. He made it rain inside his house in front of the police. Okay. Just rain out of nowhere. And fucking, that's what he did. Thought he was under the attack by his grandfather, who was dead, who had hurt him, is what he said. So, he went to jail for arson again. He went back into jail. He's got a lot of problems, but I 100% believe his story, and there was a lot of impartial witnesses, prison guards, and wardens and stuff. They were scared of him. He had some form of psychokinesis where he could condense water out of thin air and make rain indoors. And they said some of the raindrops would go sideways. They could see water crawling up the wall. Man, I totally believe it. There's enough witnesses that were, prison guards and shit. That's the kind of stuff, that a poltergeist phenomena, poltergeist energy can do. Spontaneous psychokinesis. That's fucking Sith Lord level shit, man. That's like the shit fucking Vader was doing when he's fighting, fucking throwing objects at people and shit. I would have loved to have seen that. I believe him. I want to have him on a show.
Well, I always thought his case was kind of interesting because, especially like you said, where some of the people reported seeing like the water like flowing upwards up the wall and shit like that.
Yeah.
Because Steve Mera, who I wrote a couple books with, like about some of his cases, he's a parapsychologist. He's British, and he did a case in Rochdale, in England, where the same thing happened, where like it would rain in their house. And he said the same thing, that it's like sometimes you would see the raindrops going sideways or up.
Yeah.
And so, and he thought that was like really interesting too. But
yeah.
He was like, yeah, it was like fucking pouring down rain like in their kitchen and shit.
Yeah. Kind of like something out of that old fucking anime cartoon Akira. where they had genetically engineered that dude and he had that ability and he could do weird shit like that. I want to see that one again. I haven't seen Ciarra in a long time.
Man, we should probably review that. I haven't seen that in a long time either.
I think he eventually got to. I think he eventually got where he could just kill someone by thinking about it.
I think it might be on HBO Max. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, like in their
kind of like something out of Scanners. That was a good movie too.
I'd be in big trouble if I had Scanners powers. I would be blowing people's heads up all the time.
Yeah.
So it's probably a good thing that I can't do that. Because I'd be like, "Yep, you pissed me off today." Blam. I'm popping on.
Yeah, business members in. Yeah, saw that episode.
Yeah, I think he was on. Well, he was on a couple shows. I think he was on. They didn't do a haunting about him, but I think he was on
Paranormal Witness.
But he was on another show too. Was it Unsolved Mysteries or?
Yeah, he was on several of them. Some of it when it happened, and was going to have him on, and it turned out that he went back to prison.
To prison, yeah.
His boss hired him. He worked at some kind of a bar or a restaurant, and his boss hired him to burn the place down so the boss could get the insurance money.
Right.
And so he got caught up in a insurance fraud thing. He had to do a few years, but that would have been over now. He'd be out by now.
Yeah, because that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Because I think when I wrote the book, when I wrote Unseen Hand, and I think I put his case in there, and that was several years ago. And I think he was in prison then, but he was due to get out.
It makes you wonder if he could make it rain. Did he make it rain when he went back to prison? I don't know. It only happened when he was real depressed. Rain would start.
That's crazy.
With me, it happens when I'm real frustrated. Frustrated and angry.
Yeah.
But it's just things being thrown and things being ripped off walls.
Yeah, any kind of like extreme emotion, I guess, is going to trigger it off.
Yeah.
Or, like I said, it did start happening when we were just talking about it all the time, too, because we were working on the book.
Yeah, it's more mellow if I'm just talking about it. An object will appear. You're like, how'd that get there?
Right.
You know.
Or disappear. We had that happen a few times.
And I saw a few things happen, like I looked at a ring, and when I looked away, the ring went flying, and it fluttered down like a feather. Not a metal ring, but it fluttered down like a feather. Another one, I saw a little plastic shot glass, as I was playing a video game, fall through about 3 or 4 shelves inside of a little bookcase type thing I have, and it hit the bottom, went, and then it vibrated on its base for a few seconds, and I looked at it, and it stopped. And when that was happening, the shades went up like they were blowing in the wind, but there was no wind in there. All the doors and windows were shut. But I was fucking into the video game. It didn't even fucking faze me. I was just like, after it happened, I was like, that was weird. That's not supposed to happen. It seemed totally natural when it was going on.
Yeah.
Kind of like when it threw the remote in front of the guys and the guests and everything. It wasn't even phased. It was like it was normal.
Yeah, you weren't weirded out.
Mm-mm.
It was weird, but it's like I wasn't really weirded out either. Like Dimitri and Jen were kind of weirded out, but I think they just thought it was neat.
Yeah. He asked me, Tom, do it again. I could feel it. I feel the hair. I had hair back then. I could feel the hair standing up on the back of my neck like it was coming back, and I had to fight it back down.
You're like, no.
I was afraid of it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like let's not go down that road. Yeah. We don't know what might happen.
Started to rev back up again.
John Gora said, every young, frustrated man I've ever known has a few holes punched in walls. Yeah, that's true. But he doesn't have to punch him. It's just
I don't have to punch it.
It just kind of happens.
One of the last things it did to make damage is it just ripped the fucking molding off the fucking...
The top of the cabinet.
There's like, well, in our old house... statues off of there.
In our old house, we had like... there was like a molding or like a shelf like on top of the kitchen cabinets where you could put stuff.
Yeah. I had
and it tore the molding
had
off
a whole bunch of wooden horses up there, little decorations. They were about that tall. And it threw 3 of them off of there simultaneously. And it pulled the molding off, and they all hit the ground simultaneously in one big crash. It happened all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. While my back was turned. As soon as I turned away, and I jumped and looked, and it's all laying there on the ground. Yeah.
And the molding was like wrenched out, or the nails were like wrenched out.
Yeah, the nails were all bent out. It just did it instantly.
Yeah, that was the most dramatic thing that it did.
Recently, yeah. When I was a kid, it was even better.
That was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That it did that, but...
When I was a kid, it was even better. It was teleporting.
But you were like really mad that day.
Yeah.
As I think what the problem was.
Yeah. Displaced anger.
I don't remember what you were mad at, but you were mad at
Displaced
something.
anger.
Yeah.
I was mad at my mom.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you just displace your anger. Just like Pookie does when you tell her she can't do something. If you tell her she can't do something, then she immediately runs over and just like, starts pulling the carpet up.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Anger displacement. Same kind of thing. All right, so I guess that was the end of that episode.
Yeah.
So what did you think about that episode, Tom?
It's kind of samey. By the time season 6 comes around, a lot of the episodes are very similar.
Maybe that's why they started going in like weird directions with like Egyptian crocodile gods.
They're not bad. They're entertaining. It's just that they start to kind of blur together. And the quality of the production's pretty good. The incidental music and everything, and the scores are good in them. The acting is pretty good, and the special effects are very good for a television series.
They did get a lot better as like time went on.
Yeah, it's just that you know that there's a lot of showbiz happening, so it doesn't have that kind of dry documentary feel of the first couple seasons.
Yeah, see,
which even they kind of got a little crazy sometimes,
but it comes across as creepier to me if it's more low key.
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't make any sense to people, but it's like the second you start going over the top and stuff, it's like not scary anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it seems less realistic.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, if people are just kind of like talking about just kind of low key shit that they saw, like that's scarier to me.
Yeah.
And I think I've said that before too, like even in horror movies, I'm usually creeped out by shit that is not like, you know, just demons like popping out in your face and stuff. That's not scary. But it's like stuff that's like just contextless and kind of like there's really no reasoning behind it, but it's just kind of subtle, but it's just kind of like weird, is like way creepier to me than like something that's really overt, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the real thing before, and it's usually not, like I just said, you know, it'll rip shit off, but that's not rip shit off of fucking molding off the cabins and shit. When that happens, that's not as freaky. What's freaky is the more subtle shit that's like mysterious. Like it takes a bunch of hand towels and makes a smiley face out of 3 or 4. See,
that's creepy.
And you're going, what the fuck? Why did it do that?
That's creepy.
Yeah, it made a smiley face. Yeah, I got a photograph of that. That's in the book. It laid little hand towels out, 3 of them, like 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth, right? Or is it just 2 eyes and a mouth?
Now I can't remember.
I gotta remember what the photograph looks like. But
yeah, it's been a long time since I've
looked at it's just there on the bed. And we found that, and I was just like, what the fuck does that mean?
That's what I mean. See, that's scarier to me, because it's like, why, why would it do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's it trying to tell us? Is it making fun of us? Is it watching us? Is that an evil grin, or is it a friendly grin?
Or is it being like, hey, I'm a nice ghost?
So you can interpret it into a bunch of different ways. And
right.
What was funny is that when you walked into the room and it was on the bed, it was upside down, facing the other wall. So when it did it, it was, I guess, looking at it from the wall when it did it, not from where a person would be standing in the room. That's kind of also.
Well, see,
weird.
That's also kind of creepy, because weird. You could almost kind of like imagine like something like coming out
through
the wall
and
like doing it.
Yeah, but
so like I said, that's like scarier.
It did it from another dimension, so it didn't matter which way it was standing, and it did it fast, a few seconds. And I don't know where them towels came from. They were from the house, but I don't know how they got in there. We were in the hallway, so they must have teleported in there. They weren't in that room. So that was always the mysterious fucking thing. Like, yeah, that object appeared in there, but how did it get in there? It didn't pass us. We were in the hallway. So how did it get there? Did it go through the wall physically, or did it just pop in there? Like through a dimension door. Never could catch it. It was fast. It's always when you weren't looking at it. And I started to think, well, it can't do it when you're looking at it, because you're reinforcing reality. When you look away from something, it's in a gray zone where no one's looking, so it can manipulate an object's location when you're not confirming it, like Schrodinger's cat, you know what I mean? It was something like that.
Well, that's something that's really common in a lot of poltergeist cases that I wrote about. It's like very, very rarely do people see anything like the start of the motion.
Yeah, you see the end. You'll see something flying, and
like they see it when it's already in motion. Like no one happens to be looking at the candlestick or whatever it is. Like when it picks itself off the table,
right.
You just kind of see it out of your peripheral vision when it's already like in motion.
Yeah, the closest. I mean, I was backing away from a pin. I told her to write something down, and Red's behind me, and I'm walking out the door, and I'm looking at the pin, and I was expecting to see the pin jump up. I was kind of dreading it, but I was afraid to see it, but I thought it might do it. I thought the pin might jump up and start scribbling, on that page, on that pad. And as I was backing away from it, going out the door, I was looking at the pin. The next thing I know, I just saw a gleam of light, and the pin was fucking halfway across the room, zooming right at me like a bullet. It hit me right in the chest and bounced off my chest. I heard it. It sounded like a fucking pow, because it was like a big pin, the inside of that ink
the
thing.
Little ink
I heard it. It made that snap noise. It hit me in the chest as I was shutting the door. There was about only that much weight, and it went back out through the door the second I shut it. And I looked back. Red saw the whole thing. He standing behind me, and I said, "Did you see that?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen." He goes, "Yeah, it happened." I said, No. I fucking walked away. Scared me, man. I was about 14, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, man. I couldn't believe that happened.
Yeah.
It hit me and then bounced off my forearm, and then got sucked out through that little 2-inch crack in the door as I was shutting it. It was fast like a bullet. And I didn't see it pick up off of the table. It was already halfway across the fucking room, zooming towards me as fast. Yeah. Well, and it wasn't going in an arc. It was going in a straight line like it was shot.
When the shit happened at our old house, I didn't see the remote pick up off the table. I saw it when it was already in the air.
Yeah.
Because at first I thought that I kicked the table, but then I was like, no, I didn't kick the table. Like, I didn't even touch the table.
And when it hit, it didn't sound normal. It was like, boom.
Right.
When it hit the ground.
But I didn't see it actually leave the table. I wasn't looking. I mean, I was looking right over it. Because I was, looking at the TV, or I was looking across the room, and it was, under my... So I saw it when it was, lift, but I didn't see it, actually lift off. I just saw it when it was just kind of already flying. You know what I'm saying?
Murder Hornet says Tom has the Force. It's the dark side of the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta watch it, like I said.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, one of these days he's gonna get mad at me and wing a brick at my head or something.
It doesn't seem to do it like that, though.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's usually...
It's got some kind of rules with it. I don't kind of understand it.
Yeah.
You can't make it happen. It just does it.
Well, I think you said this. I might have put this in the book too, but you said you can't make it. You have to allow it.
Yeah. And it's you can't do it from nothing. It takes a few weeks of thinking about it to kind of start getting it revved up, and then once the ball starts rolling, it gets easier and easier to do, and it does more and more impressive shit to where to scare you, and then you got to try to stop it. It'll go fucking haywire. So I was afraid it would go like that girl from the fire starter, where once she got good at it, she couldn't control how hot it would get.
And then she just started
cooking
just
burning everything out and trying to fucking put the heat into the damn tub, and it turned into steam and shit. And fucking so I was always afraid it would get out of control.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that is a valid concern.
And it might turn on me too, so I don't know.
Right.
Might be self-hatred involved. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah. Well, it's like venom.
Right.
The thing that's doing it. It's like venom. It's not a good thing, really. But it can soften. It'll do funny shit, too, so I'm not sure. It might be more than one of them.
You got all kind of entities in there.
Little facets of your personality.
Yeah, doing all kind of crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got multitudes in there, Tom.
Yeah. There's 4 or 5 of them in there. They talk to each other.
They're always fighting and stuff.
Well, it's like a council.
Yeah.
They're trying to come to an agreement.
How does that go usually?
They're fighting.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It's usually when I'm under a lot of stress and I start going inward.
Yeah.
If I'm relaxed and everything's going normally, you know what I mean? And it takes a few weeks for it to get bad like that. It doesn't happen immediately. You got to get in a situation where your mental health starts to suffer or something, you know?
And it builds up.
It builds up, yeah.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you ready to wrap some shit up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
because it's 8:45. I gotta start, and man, I've been up since 3:30. I'm like getting really tired. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this live stream this evening, talking about Marked by Evil, not Stalked by Evil, as I said. We did Stalked by Evil, so might want to go watch that one too. But yeah, so we'll be back on Wednesday night for the main show. And the thing that won this time, this is really interesting because I didn't know a lot about this. I think somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody recommended this topic like a long time ago, and I had put it in the poll a couple times that never won, but it did win this time. And that is I feel like in the United States we probably don't know much about this, but it's a very, very famous female Irish pirate named Grace O'Malley, who is kind of like a folk hero, like in Ireland.
Okay.
Kind of a badass.
All right.
So, you know, I've been reading a little bit about her, like, over the last couple days and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do the show about, Grace O'Malley. That should be a good show. I think it's, like, going to be really interesting. So I don't remember, like, who recommended it because it was a long time ago. But, you know, good topic, and that's what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. So hopefully everybody can join us for that. So have a good rest of your evening, you guys. Have a good day tomorrow, and we'll see you again on Wednesday night. Good night.